So I want to start, guys, by just welcoming everyone. Really appreciate you jumping on today. It's our first webinar for the UK market. And I think all of us can agree that we're kind of in some very uncharted water right now that none of us were really expecting or really planning for. When this all started, Virtuagym definitely thought it was crucial for us to bring together as much internal, but also external resources and try to provide as much information, advice, guidance as possible during this time to help you kind of navigate through this. And so hopefully what you're able to get out of this is some topics that you can bring to your members, your staff, as well as some topics to think about in the long term. Just so you are aware, we are running these webinars in 5 different languages across different markets. So if you have friends or colleagues or anyone within the industry, we're also running these in Spanish, in German, in Dutch, as well as in French, and English from a UK perspective, but also from a US perspective. And just want to start by saying we have such an unbelievable team here at Virtuagym. It's been obviously a crazy time for our friends, our families, and all things considerations with our jobs. But I think what we've seen here is just you need to keep people first, and we've seen some amazing just collaboration, people working extra hard on the weekends for free and just trying to provide as much valuable resources there. So that's kind of the theme for today's strategies, is how do you keep people's health, their safety at first, and how do you kind of keep them at the forefront of this conversation as you're moving forward. So I'm going to start by just introducing our speakers today. So a couple definitely industry veterans that have a lot to provide this, and super happy that they're able to join us. Maybe I'll start with Jon, ask him to just introduce himself briefly.
Thanks, Thomas. Thank you for having me today as well. We work with hundreds of health clubs around the world, helping millions of health club members stay connected. We have interests in club chains as operators, and we also supply a lot of software that focuses around member feedback and finding out exactly what members want from their clubs. So it'll be a pleasure to share some of the best practice that we've been seeing from different countries around the world facing this crisis at the moment.
Perfect. Fausto?
Hi, I'm Fausto from REX EMEA. We have more than 30 countries around the world, and so we have a lot of experiences. I'm from Italy. This is the 5th week of shutdown. And also we have a member from Singapore, Taiwan, and a lot of countries, so we can see what's the life and the fitness industry at the beginning, the middle, and at the end, if there is an end yet.
Perfect. And a little bit about me. My name is Thomas. I'm the VP of Enterprise Sales here at Virtuagym. Been with the company now for over 3 years. And yeah, working with our largest customers in both the digital and the membership management space. So I'm going to move forward here. Just a couple things in terms of housekeeping. We will be sending this recording to all of you, so you can have it afterwards. You can share it with whoever you like. There also is a question and answers component of this. So you see at the bottom of the screen a Q&A. We do have members of Virtuagym that are there on standby to answer any of your questions. And we will be able to pull out 3 to 5 questions at the end of this that you're able to ask myself or Jon or Fausto. And we will be linking in different resources that we talk about at the end of this to send all of you. So in terms of today's agenda, this is kind of what we have put together to focus on. There's obviously a lot of different topics, but we wanted to kind of narrow that down and focus on these main things. So the first is, what do we know and what don't we know? So surrounding this is a ever-changing topic, and things are pretty much changing every hour to every day. So we want to focus on what do we know now and using that to base up our decisions. Secondly, around supporting your staff. So how do you support your staff during this time? Also, in coordination with supporting your members. How do you support your members in the similar but in different ways? And then a little bit into like the long-term view and the phases. So how can we think strategically long-term about this? We do know that eventually it will end, but this is definitely going to affect our sector and our industry. So how can you prepare when when thinking 3, 6, 9 months down the line. And lastly, we'll go through any questions and final thoughts. So again, to reiterate, the aim for this and what we're hoping that you get out of this is to really leave this session with some topics that you can take away and talk about with your teams, with your members, and just have a stronger sense of hopefully what you should be focusing on, taking in the lessons from Fausto in Italy, from pretty much what we'd say the European ground zero, but also from here in the Netherlands where I'm based, and in the UK where Jon's based. So let's get started then. I'm going to start off with what do we know, and I'm going to hand it over to Jon to kick us off in terms of what Jon, do you feel like we know right now, and what should we be focusing on?
The strongest messages that I've seen coming through are those coming from the people who have got the strongest grip on what their core values are and what their business stood for before this all started. So I think what we do know is what our core values are and why we got into this business in the first place. We do know that we're in this business because we're here to serve people. So these are the really clear, strong thinking messages that I've seen from clients and my peer group around the world. Are those people who are being very clear about supporting their people. As you said, supporting their people first, supporting their staff, and supporting their members, okay? We also know as an industry that fitness is a superpower. So for me, the superpower is only really a superpower when it's used for good, not evil. And we know we can use our superpowers as heroes for the members, for our staff. And it's very important that we lead the way and do this. You often hear people talk about being a servant leader rather than just a leader. And the strongest messages I'm seeing are from people who definitely come through as servant leaders. Okay, so if you've heard me talk about members and what's important to our membership base before, you'll know I often focus on finding out who the heroes of your business are. And we all know who our heroes are within our business. And if you don't know, think about the people who come most often, think about the people who refer most friends to you, think about the people who write really good reviews for you. They're your community, and they're the people who'll be missing you most. It's a really good thing, and I've seen people doing it already, reaching out to those people and making sure they've got a connection to you straight away. These are the people who will miss you most. When you do come through all of this, these are the people who will be coming back first, and these are the people who will be helping you build your business. So remember what you're about, why you got into the business in the first place. Stay true to yourself and think really, really hard how your actions today are going to reflect the things you say are important to you as your values. Make sure your actions reflect what you're doing and thinking in terms of your core values as a business.
Awesome. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Fausto, anything from your end in terms of maybe what has changed from what you knew in the beginning a couple of weeks ago, and maybe what you know now about this
week? And then when we closed in the first week, we had to close all gyms in all Italy. And in the second week, we had to close everything in Italy, completely shut down. At the first week, during the first week, when the school closed, it appeared like a big vacation. So everybody were happy and were playing from home, singing. You have seen the news. But when you realized that after 1 week that a lot of people around you were dying, you really realized that it was a big mess. So the value of a fitness industry is very important, because we started to broadcast live from some gyms, but not all, because now it's also forbidden to go to the gyms. Even if you are the owner alone, you cannot go there. And also a lot of trainers, they started to do live classes from Instagram, Facebook. So this is very helpful from the psychological point of view for the community. So they really appreciated us, and they were really happy to see their trainers, and also a lot of people from that weren't customers of the gyms attended this live class that we were broadcasting as a club, but from private homes of the trainers. So this is very important at the beginning, but now after 5 weeks, owners, people, the community are a little stressed. You can read a lot of fake news. People don't know who to believe to, and this is a big problem. But also for the owner point of view, they are starting to realize that it's quite impossible now to know when it will finish. So it will be 1 month, 2 months, or even September or longer. So they are starting to realize that they have to do something to, they did in the first week, they reduced the costs. It was the emergency. In 2 days, 3 days, you can deal with it. But now we are starting to think about different scenarios, starting from the best scenario to the worst scenarios. And the worst scenarios is that when we'll open in the future, perhaps the market, the community, the laws, they will not be the same as when we close. So the difference is that after 4 or 5 weeks, people are becoming really stressed and worried about the future. At the beginning, in the stage that you are now, and I wish you that you don't go through the same phase of Italy, it's like a big vacation. But then after 2, 3 weeks, you realize that is a nightmare.
Yeah. So Fausto, are you creating multiple kind of contingency plans depending on how long this could last? Like something for, say, another 2 months, something for another 4 months, and something for maybe a year? Or
Yeah.
are you kind of changing it day by day or week by week?
Yeah, here everything changes really every day. But we have 4 different scenarios. The worst scenarios is that we open in 2021. And then all the other scenarios are better scenarios. We have 4 different scenarios. One will open in 2 months, because before 2 months is quite impossible. And then the worst in 2021. And with a lot of restriction by the government, and also with a lot of different perception from the population, for the people, because people will be, after 2-3 months staying at home, when they go back to the normality, we don't know what will happen. So it's very important to be ready for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, just I think to add in my 2 cents about it in terms of what we know and what we don't know, I think the one benefit that we do have is that we all know what our members and staff are thinking, because we're pretty much all in this together. So the messaging that you're sending out should be based off of what everyone's going through. And I think it's about kind of giving them the confidence and kind of holding their hand through this as a leader within the gym for your staff, but also as a leader in the gym for your industry. You should be able to provide these resources that are able to, inspire confidence, allow them to kind of get through this. And I think keep on reiterating that message that we're in this together, and we will kind of get through that. Yeah. Is there anything, John, that you're seeing that maybe people are focusing on now that they shouldn't, just because of how quickly things are changing?
I just think that was very good points you made there. And as things are changing very, very quickly, we can't affect that. But what we can affect is how we react when things are happening. And this is why I say again, it's so important to keep a good grip on what your core values are. There's everyone over here will have seen Richard Branson last week, before the government support packages were announced, asking his staff to take an 8-week unpaid holiday, which went down incredibly badly with his staff, and also his brand image, and all the lessons he's taught us about looking after your staff first. Now, I know today he's announced a $250 million support package for his staff. How much more powerful would that have been if that is what he'd done first? And how much more in line with the values that we thought he had would that have been? Whereas now we're sitting here thinking, well, what are his values? What is the message from that brand? So again, as a leader, you can control how you react to things. Things may change day by day by day. So it's very important. And again, these are the strong messages I'm seeing from people who are taking time to consider how they act, not just acting straight away, not doing a knee-jerk reaction, not feeling like they have to be the first out the gates, but people who feel like the more measured they are, the more thoughtful they are, the more support they're then going to be able to give to other people, the calmer they're going to be, the better the situation's going to be. So these are the people who are thinking how their brand is going to be thought of by people in 7 years' time when all this is over, and you look back on it and you bump into some members and you ask them what they remember about this time. They will be telling stories about how helpful you were, how supportive you were, how much they got psychologically from you, rather than the people who are like, wow, I can't believe you sacked all your staff yesterday. You know, there's a lot to be said in just taking a measured approach and thinking carefully and looking around the peer group that we've got here. I know you're going to share some resources at the end of this. I mean, I noticed Ursa managed to get 80,000 letters over the weekend to the Senate to support more help for the industry. And that's the value of strong leadership we've got in our fitness community. And so don't be afraid to look to these communities and ask for help. Okay, so those are the more powerful things I'm seeing at the moment, Thomas.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. I think that like we said, the reality is we just don't know. We can't really influence this at all. All we can do is really stick to, like you mentioned, your core values and stick to our part and continue to listen to expert advice. Okay, Fausto, if you don't have anything else to add, I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is basically about supporting your staff during this.
No, okay, it's fine. So about supporting the staff, yes, I can say, yeah, about supporting staff, I can say what we are doing.
Yeah.
Because after 1-2 weeks, no one did anything because they were really worried, and also the community, they didn't care about fitness and about doing something with trainers. Of course, they started to follow a lot of hundreds of online platform and trainers in the streaming on Facebook and Instagram. But now, because what is important is to support the team, and they are really worried about not only the health part of the problem, but also about the financial part of the problem for themselves. So we just started this week. This is the 5th week. So we started today to help them to continue to earn some money. We gave them the direct access to the personal trainers, to the customer or personal trainers, so they can train our customers at home using Zoom or Facebook or Instagram, and they get paid by the customer, and the customer, they pay for the same amount of money that they usually pay for one session, they get 2 sessions. So our staff is less worried about the financial part of this problem. Yeah. Okay.
John, in terms of, I'm just trying to pull up the slide here and see it's gone missing. What about supporting the staff in your point of view, maybe touching on kind of what you were talking about with those core values?
Yeah, I mean, your staff are going to have very similar core values to you, but remember, these are the people who love the community that you've built, and they love being part of that community and connecting with people. Really important to make sure you're checking in regularly with your staff, okay? Really important that you're talking through any tough decisions with them. We're lucky that most governments seem to be doing support packages in terms of wages. And, you know, over here, we're hoping there's going to be more support for self-employed people. A lot of the staff in the UK are self-employed. You've got to counsel these guys that support will be coming for them. They do have a community. You are there to help them. You're not in this for the short term, you're in it for the long term. And just remember the type of people your staff are, okay? Make sure they're getting that community connection. Make sure they're feeling wanted. Make sure you're putting them in touch with the members. And you can be a really good conduit here to, again, your hero members will be missing the staff, and the staff will be missing the hero members. Something you can do very quickly to make people feel better is make sure that they're all connected. And it's great seeing companies like yourself that are giving away free access to tools to make this easier and make it easier for people to communicate, especially around their fitness goals. So just bear in mind that the needs of these people, our community, our engagement, these are not going to change. These are the same. And make sure you're doing all you can to help them meet their needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think as well, there's something that we haven't really touched on that much is obviously supporting your staff and, you know, giving them the communication and the confidence that around their job security, but also reaching out and just making sure like mentally you're supporting them. So making sure that they have the resources when it comes to learning about, well, the situation within the industry, learning about their rights within their job, but also just dealing with this because it's affecting a lot of people with their friends, their families. And I think it's only going to be more. So as an employer, just making sure that they have the resources to be mentally strong through this, this period.
I mean, in terms of things moving so quickly, I mean, last week we should have all been working a double shift at URSA. And, you know, we went from 10 days ago sitting together saying, yeah, we'll make a call whether we get on the plane on Friday to, well, okay, we're not going to go. So we'll all meet in London on Thursday to having a virtual drink session through a Zoom meeting where we're all sitting at home trying to keep people away from us in the space of 7 days. And one of the things we asked everybody to do on that Zoom call was bring an example of something good they'd seen happen out of this, rather than sitting there sharing stories of crazy times and crazy things. So everybody came to that Zoom drinking session, drinking responsibly, the new drinking responsibly, doing it via Zoom, with a good story about things happening. It's not always easy to get people to do that, but you know, it's really important to keep your staff and keep your members aware there's so many more good people out there than bad. Okay, we're all sincerely hoping that all the hoarders, or many of the hoarders, actually get slowly crushed under the weight of their own toilet paper at some point in this crisis. There's a lot more good things happening out there. We had a local club who, one of the first things they did after shutdown was go through their member base, looking for the older members, looking for the healthcare workers, and they've reached out to them, seeing if there's anything they can do to help them. You know, that was their priority call, and that really struck with their core values, and it's such a good story. And there's nothing to stop us looking through our membership bases and finding those vulnerable people and making sure they feel connected at this time. And it's something more positive, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more sharing of positive stories as time goes by. And I think it's really important for us to be that channel and be that conduit to help those sort of stories come to the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think just maybe to close off the supporting the staff component, we've also seen a lot here within Virtuagym, gyms and business owners that have given maybe non-traditional gym staff the ability to also stay on board, whether it's doing a different role within the facility, like doing online classes or even influencing some personal training things, but also in the sense of potentially giving them access to online learnings and tools that they're able to use right now when the gym's closed to increase their knowledge, to gain further certifications. So we've had lots of our locations give free trainings, webinars to increase basically that that employees value when they do come back, and you know, basically empowering them through this time.
Yeah, very true. You know, education, entertainment, and community are big opportunities for us when our clubs are open, and they should still remain as big opportunities for our staff and for our members whilst the bricks and mortars remain shut.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move towards basically how do we support our members during this time. And I think obviously for us, this has been a huge component that we've been basically going back and forth ever since this this started is how do we provide the gyms in our network, or even anyone who's part of this Virtuagym community, all the resources that they can basically use to to cope during this period when the gyms are closed and potentially when they can't go outside. So I think just from our side, some of the first things that we implemented right away in terms of just operational, being able to pause memberships on a mass basis, if that's the route that you want to go down, but also just giving advice and kind of, I think, thought leadership of what other gyms are doing within our network, what seems to be working there, the general messages that are coming back from members of gyms, but also from the C-level or the leadership group at chains on how they're kind of moving forward with giving tools to their members while they don't have the access to a membership. Also, are there things that you're seeing within your network within Italy? Now it's a little bit further down. Is there increase in workouts from home, or is that kind of like a fad that you're seeing, or how are you noticing that within Italy?
It's increasing a lot, not only in Italy. We are in 35 countries, and they are all starting training people at home classes or one-to-one in different ways. So it's really increasing, and a lot of people are calling us, writing us to buy small equipment or accessories. So you can see that a lot of people that we never saw before, that are writing us in order to buy this something. They want to pay a lot to buy also a pair of dumbbells. But I think a lot of people are starting to working at home because they don't know what to do at home, and they know that it's very important to stay healthy for your body, your mind. And yes, and also we can see the KPIs when we broadcast our live classes. We have people attending between 100 and 300, sometimes 50, depending on the class. But I also own a gym. My gym is small. I'm in a small town, but we have members that have large chains, and they are sharing the KPIs. There are thousands of people working out at home. And depending on the fact that it will last a lot, months, we suppose, it's very, very important to have them to stay healthy. But what we found that at the beginning, we gave also a lot of suggestions, training plans, and also tips for positive thinking. And now we started to do something to help the community also to get revenues, to get some money in some way, because a lot of people lost their job. And so we did something very nice that also the community appreciated. We, using our Facebook and Instagram account, we allow our members to broadcast something so they can get paid. For example, a girl, she did a cooking class how to do a tiramisu, and people that learn how to do a perfect tiramisu, they can, if they want, send them some money to that girl, and she gained some money. So we just did this last week. We want to do more because they were very, very happy. We received a lot of requests to use our platform to sell something, so they think they are safe for a financial point of view. That after 5 weeks, this will be a big problem in some countries. This is why also in the US, you have seen a lot of people queuing in front of a magazine where they sell weapons.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't get to to that point. But yeah, I think, again, this is obviously a huge topic here at Virtuagym and how we're supporting our members. And I think with the customers that we do have or the prospects, a lot of the conversations are going towards how do you keep those members engaged while the clubs are closed? And that basically, how do you provide them with that content or that information through these super challenging times? And so some of the things that we did, just to highlight, is we launched something called Virtuagym at Home. And basically, Virtuagym at Home is a free tool that allows our current customers or any new customers to access to an environment that is curated content based off at-home workouts. So you can think of training plans focused on things without equipment, or just with body weight or small things, so members can filter through those. And how it works in essence is we'll import your members into that, if you're a current client or a new client, into that environment, and they'll get access to this. It's updated on basically a daily basis, and you can also have the option to add on one of our partners, which is Fitness on Demand through the Video on Demand tile. What that looks like is basically access to hundreds of streaming video content from top brands and celebrity trainers like Zumba and Taibo and yoga. So we have various customers who have decided to turn this on for their customer base. There's a couple of different models out there. Some are giving it away for free and basically asking the members to continue to pay a part of their membership, or others are saying, okay, we paused your membership. If you want to completely pause it, that's fine. But if you want to purchase or have an additional solely online content piece for the next couple months or next weeks, you have access to this through our app and our online content. John, are you seeing any trends or anything really stick out in terms of like the online services within the UK gyms?
Well, to my mind, to make these work where they've not been delivered before, is really important that you think about how exercise is a habit for our members. So think about the times of day when you're trying to get people to do these. You can encourage people to exercise at the same time of day as they were before. It's got to be a good thing. The last in, first out, first in, last out metaphor for habits.
Mm-hmm.
And we like to think of ourselves as health clubs. We're always trying to provide that trigger to make people go and exercise. So really put some time into communicating, thinking about when you're communicating to try and trigger exercise in your members, keep it consistent for them. This is what will make this a success and make things connect. I know, a lot of operators really appreciate anything that is allowing them to communicate better with their members, particularly if it's free of charge. We're all literally having our livings wiped away from us, okay? And, I include myself in that as well. It's a horrible, horrible time. And, it's been upsetting in many ways seeing some of the emails coming through trying to sell me things to do this. It's great when you've got a platform which is offering certain services for free. So it gives you a bit more faith in the industry. And again, going back to reminding you there's so many more good people and good partners out there than bad ones. Okay, so just think about the messages that you're sending across and the times of day that you're trying to get people to do that. If you want to support your at-home members, make sure you're doing it at the right time of day that suits the at-home members.
Yeah, and I think from my side, I don't think it's rocket science in the sense that your members come to your facilities for certain reasons, and it's usually around they're looking for an experience, they want to be motivated, they want to be around like-minded individuals, and they want to achieve their goals. So what you need to think about when you're delivering these online services is basically how do you take those specific elements and push that more towards a remote audience and more of that isolated online environment. And I think there's plenty of resources out there that will allow you to continue to keep your members engaged. And I think the gyms or the operators who are able to do that the best, keep those members engaged through this crazy time and be that thought leader, are the ones who are going to bounce back the quickest, because those are the ones who those members are going to constantly be receiving content from those gyms, and when they are open again, they're, I think, going to be the members who are coming back the quickest.
Yeah, and they'll be the members who'll be bringing in the other members with them, because they're so pleased of how we all help them get through this. Yeah,
exactly. That leads, I think, nicely into our next component, which is more about thinking long term and the different phases. Maybe Fausto, I'll start off with you. In terms of long term, you're probably hopefully the closest towards having gyms open again. What are some of the topics or the streams that you're thinking of now in order to basically prepare for that eventual day when they say, gyms open?
Yeah, when we are thinking deeply about this topic, because the day that they will say, okay, you can go outside your home, you can go to the gyms, people will be very happy to go outside, but we have to be ready to host them, because psychologically they will be very scared to go to very crowded places. So we are thinking how to change the setup of the gym floor, the classroom, the changing room, and everything. Because we have classes like Barry's Bootcamp with 45 people. I don't think it will be possible to do the same thing in the future. So how we can change the layout of the gym floor in order to help people to come in and feel safe and have fun. So it's very important to really think about a new kind of gym, completely different from what we have now. We are trying to design new gyms where also the studios for classes completely different, in order that everyone is sure to have a space, 4 square meters. In Italy, before closing, we were allowing people to come inside and have 4 square meters for each person. For the budget club, it will be very hard, because they have 3 people for 3 or more for each 1 square meter. So how we can design the floor and what we can put in the wall, so everyone has everything there, and you are sure that you can use only your dumbbell, your step, your bar, your rubbers, and everything, that you are sure that you only use for 1 hour that small equipments or that machines. So we are thinking about how you really change the studios and the gym floor. And gym floor, for example, we are thinking about to put all machine like a circuit, so you only go in a machine once, and you are sure that it's clean. There is enough space between one equipment and the other one. So we are doing a lot of brainstorming in order to imagine the fitness club of the future. And also the changing room. The changing room is the hardest part, because people, they don't want, I don't think in the future, at least after when we open for months, they don't want to stay very close to other people. And this depends also in how many people died in your area, because I hope no one will die in the UK, in the Netherlands, other countries. But if you have, like yesterday in Italy, we had 800 people in one single day died. So when you have every day in your area 50, 60 people dying, it will be very hard to go inside a place where there are a lot of people. So also we are thinking about to open garden. We have, for example, a lot of clubs that have gardens. So we are thinking about how we can use our open areas around the club, also how to work outside the club, in the parks, in the beaches, everywhere, because it will be very hard to bring people inside the gym, at least at the beginning. We hope people will forget after 10 years. No, no, I'm joking. After 10 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely some interesting things for owner operators to keep in mind as this progresses. John, you mentioned before that around like habit building, and kind of some of the things that we're talking about here is, for example, if habits of going to the gym at 7 a.m. or 6 p.m. are somehow now replaced by potentially running outside, or it could be anything really. How do you think gyms would be able to bring those people back into those habits of, going to the gym 3 times a week at a certain time for a certain class? Are there certain things that they can really focus on once they're open again?
Well, just very interesting, but I think if you're making yourself the catalyst or the trigger for that member to go out and do that run, if you're providing the platform for them to share that they've been on a run and receive the reward of other people saying, well done, Tom, you've been for a run, well done, Fausto, you've been for a run, and all those people are from the community that they're used to being in your gym, that they're sharing the fact they've been for a run, then these are the things that they'll still be associating your club, your community with their exercise habits and patterns. You've got to make sure that you're reaching out to your active members who are still being active, congratulating them, letting them get the recognition for what they're doing, and share how proud you are of what they're doing. That way you can keep them connected. Also, as Fausto was saying, in the long term, I think it's going to be very interesting to see innovations. But, what do we know now that we know will be the same then? Recently, we analysed 8 million member comments, feedback comments about their gyms just before the end of last year. The number one thing that members talked about was cleanliness. So there's not going to be any change there, okay? But there are things you'll be able to do to make it more obvious about the cleanliness that you're providing within your clubs, make it more visible about the cleaners. I think there'll be a lot more investment in making sure there's nice aromas around the club, things smell nice, things look nice, and you can see people cleaning more. And I do think people are very resilient, and people's needs will be the same. We do all love that sense of belonging and community, and we are all well aware of the benefits of exercise and its superpowers. And I think the long term is people will be back in the clubs, and people will be supporting, and people will remember how we allowed a sense of community to prevail through this crisis. And that's important that we keep those messages out there and strong. And that way we'll make sure we're at the center of people's habits, whether they're in the clubs or not at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, what you mentioned about the cleanliness. I think we can look at just the last couple of days in each of our countries before the gyms were actually closed. Already we were seeing, lower numbers than average in terms of attendance, as people were, increasingly worried about germs and spreading the virus. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Even if the gyms are open and you're open for a month or two, I think everyone's going to have a heightened perceptance about cleanliness. So you need to make sure now as an owner operator that you're thinking of that strategy, and exactly like you mentioned, communication, but visual. But I think also lastly, just making sure that you're following the guidelines from experts out there to make sure that you're communicating that you are following exactly what has been recommended by the experts in terms of cleaning and making sure it's a safe environment for them to work.
Yeah, and as I say, that was the case before all this happened. So there'll be no change there. I also think as a fitness community, this is really accelerating for me. I'm seeing a lot more collaboration and idea sharing, and I think we'll come out of this with some really reinforced bonds within our own fitness community. I mean, I personally love going on the active management community on Facebook, where I see every day positive stories from all around the world on how people are dealing with this, and really clear thoughts and actions from people who I look up to in the industry. And I think things like that are going to get a lot stronger for the industry. So I think the increase in sharing of best practice and good strategies will also help the industry accelerate out of this a lot quicker than otherwise it might.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just looking at the time. We got a little bit over 10 minutes left. I want to open up our attendees for a couple of questions, and then we'll end off with just some final thoughts from myself, Jon, and Fausto. If anybody within the attendees has a question, you can ask it within the questions and answer. I'll give you a minute or two to type it in, and if there's none, then we can move directly to our final thoughts. If people know how to do it, I hope it's not too difficult. See a hand being raised.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi there, my name's Karen Harris, and I'm the Health and Fitness Manager at Portsmouth University. I haven't really got a question, just wanted to say thank you. This has been really, really insightful. I've written down about 6 or 7 things I'm going to go away and talk to my team about this afternoon. And it would be great if these were done regularly. We're all at home, working from home, and obviously lots of the things that you're saying we're already trying to do, but I think having something like this regularly for managers and people who are trying to sort of lead their teams through this difficult time would be fantastic for me to be able to have access to this kind of thing more often. Is there any plans to do it, you know, more regularly? Or
Yeah, absolutely. So this is obviously our first one, and we put it together pretty quickly. I think we were talking about it last Thursday, and we put it together to be able to deliver today. We've been talking about delivering a weekly session, and I think after this, the plan will be to basically send out the recording, but as well as maybe just a short questionnaire on what are some of the topics that you would be interested in exploring deeper.
that'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, one of the
brilliant.
big benefits of us is, you know, we're working with 6,000 clients in 90 different countries, and we have a lot of connections with different people in various stages of this. So we're hoping to be able to bring in multiple people like Jon and like Fausto, who have so much experience to be able to offer you guys on a weekly basis.
That's really good. That's great. And just lastly, can you tell me when this will be available for us to forward on and share with our teams?
Yeah, it will be available immediately after. I think Zoom takes a couple minutes to go through like the audio stuff, but you should receive it within 30 to an hour.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
And we'll also, sorry, Tom, I was going to say, we're also going to share a few community links as well, different resources for the groups that you can go to apart from this, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so by the end of the day, you also get an email with some more resources, not just a link to this, but some of the things that we're following and some of the things that we think are the best to keep yourself at the forefront of this and what's going on. So Fausto, there was another question here from Austin. Are they giving you guys any sort of timeline when Italy will be back at work again?
No one knows. Unfortunately, there are a lot of experts saying different things. So no one knows. We have a member in Singapore that changed Singapore and Taiwan. And even in Singapore and Taiwan, they started 1 month before us with the virus. And right now, we have a member from South Korea, and they were close to not solve, but the situation was going better. But now it worsened again, and they had to close a fitness club in South Korea, and they have to close. They are closing fitness club in Singapore. Not yet, but today or tomorrow, he said that they will close all the 35 chain clubs in Singapore and Taiwan. because Singapore is one of the best in the world in the healthcare, but now they were able to control the spread of the virus. But now they had the first 2 deaths, and is going up again. So they are closing a lot of shops, restaurants, and perhaps today or tomorrow they close gyms as well.
Yeah, I think,
no one knows, unfortunately.
yeah, unfortunately, some of the first things that we're seeing out of China and Asia is, while some of the new infected people have gone down in a lot of the cases, there actually has been people coming back to the areas because it's deemed relatively safe. But those people are the ones that coming from external areas back into I guess, rehabilitated areas that are also infected. So it could be potentially 2 kind of waves of this, depending on how it moves forward.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I'm just going to, we got just a couple more minutes left. I'm going to go towards our final thoughts here. Fausto, you mentioned something that was interesting to me on our last call around just some operational things that people should be thinking about, even about like turning on equipment every now and then.
Yes, after 4 weeks, if you don't go to the gym and you turn on all of the cardio machines and also the showers and everything, it's a big problem. So it's very important to have a checklist of what you have to turn on every single week in order to avoid any problem in the future when you will open again. So this is very important. We are doing this in Italy. Our REX member are doing this. We have a checklist. If you want, I can share with you. I can send you. You can share with all the attendees. Yeah. What is important? How often you have to turn on equipments in the gym?
Okay. Yeah. If you could share that, Fausto, we'll make sure to link that into the email so people can have a checklist of some of those things, because I think those are some of the things that you don't really think about in these times, but are important and not something you want to get caught with. Yeah. Just like John, you mentioned the communities and things and active management. What are the other resources that you're using right now? And again, we'll link them in at the end to get your information at this time.
Yeah, honestly, for me, I go to active management, and it's the sort of community where you can just ask any question. Nobody judges you and nobody accuses you of being stupid, and you really do get help. Luckily, I've known people like Fausto for a very long time, and I know I can reach out to him. So my own peer group, we're all talking to each other regularly, and we're going to be continuing to drink responsibly via Zoom at least once a week, and share good positive stories with each other. So that's the one for me, is the active management community, Thomas. And obviously now I'll be tuning into Virtuagym every week as well.
There you go.
So, but I just think that, again, stick to your core values, and the old saying that trust arrives on foot but leaves in a Ferrari. Really think about how your actions are going to age, and how things you're saying and are reflecting, how the things you're doing are reflecting the things you believe in. And that should see everybody through this a lot better.
Yeah.
You guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, this is Will Phillips. Although the screen says Fausto on my name. Fausto invited me to hook into this. And one of the, I've been Zooming with a couple of hundred clients in different industries for about 2 weeks. And this is, I think, the 3rd or 4th serious recession that I've been through, just because I'm an old guy. And one of the things that, there's 2 thoughts that come to mind that may or may not be useful. I think we're in a different world. And I think that as we look for ways to respond, it's helpful to explore what the new world might be. And I'll give you an example. Thinking about a definition of what are our customers' needs and how have they changed since the coronavirus crisis has hit. And one of the obvious descriptions of the new client is that there is a great deal of fear and uncertainty in their life. And that although exercise may help you deal with that, it's not the single most, it's not as direct as I would like. So one of the things we've done is we have encouraged not only every one of a client's staff members, but also all their members to do the following thing. Create online, create a neighborhood list of all the people who live near you, like on your street or in your apartment building, have all their contact information, find out if there's anybody, find out who's living in each space, like how many people, are there any old people? And you're doing this with the intention that if someone needs help, that there is a list now that can provide help. So what we're doing is building a community on each block and in each apartment building, and in some cases literally getting thousands of these communities built through our members and our staff to help one another. And already I see requests coming out and people making offers. Like there's 2 young guys in one list who've told everybody, if anybody needs any shopping done, we'll give us your grocery list and we'll go out to the grocery store for you. And those little acts of compassion and help strengthen the community. And that comes from thinking of the customer differently than the usual customer. And the other thing to think that I think about differently is that what's happening there. It's good to think of different scenarios of like different sets of assumptions about how things might come to a close and recover. And one of them is a real disaster that says we're going to have the world's largest recession that puts the 1929 recession to shame, because this will be so much bigger, so much longer, and so much more significant because it echoes from country to country. And if you have a country that's pretty much recovered like South Korea, and all of a sudden it opens up travel, then you have someone from Ghana who relaunches the virus. Anyway, this could be a 2 to 3 year shutdown. And the question is, what's your plan? What's your plan for yourself? What's your plan for your staff? What's your plan for your customers? Just to stretch your thinking so that you have those, I call it a get out alive plan, which we always used to have when I was doing mountaineering, is what's your get out alive plan? What do you do when everything goes to shit so that you can survive? And mostly you don't need a get out alive plan, but when you have one, it's there in case you need it, and you don't have to make it up on the fly when it hits you.
Yeah,
so
those are great points. Appreciate you jumping in. We got to jump off now because we've hit our an hour slot. I want to thank everyone for joining, and just to reiterate, I think that you know, what really counts is the health and safety of your members and your staff. Like what Jon said, you should really stick with your core values. Offering online content is really important right now in terms of giving the confidence to your members as well as the support network. And yeah, you need to be really a leader in this in terms of how you communicate the information. Thanks everybody, and we'll be in touch shortly with the recording of this as well as some of the next steps for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Thanks, Fausto.
Ciao, ciao. Thank you.